Welcome to the Slammers podcast. I am Beau. On this episode, I got the chance to catch up with local Philly golfer Michael Brown. Michael recently competed in the U.S. Senior Open up at Newport Country Club in Rhode Island, and he was gracious enough to take the time to chat with me and shed some insights on the week.
All right, Mike, thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time. I can see on the Zoom that you looks like you just got done a workout. You're in your car, so I really appreciate you squeezing me in here. It's Friday, July 5th, so it's been a week since you teed off in the second round at the U.S. Senior Open at Newport Country Club. Before we talk about the tournament itself, I wanted to just see how you're doing. How's this past week or so post tournament been for you emotionally? Was there any type of emotional come down, or just where are you at the moment?
Well, it's funny you ask that because I have been kind of going through exactly that. Um, and it's not the first time. I think when I played USMs or maybe Q school, there is a short period of come down just because you look forward to it for so long and it's kind of now almost a rebuilding period. Assess what happened, what needs to happen moving forward, and just how to be better prepared for the next time. But yeah, I felt a little down this last week, and not because I feel like I did anything wrong. It's just when you pull your car out of a tournament that you're finished playing that you is going to go on without you. It's just a rough feeling that lasts for a little bit.
Yeah, I imagine just playing on a big stage like that, just with anything in life, it's always hard to go backwards, right? And kind of come back to reality. So I figured, yeah, that I've experienced it on much lower lower stages, even for me when you get into that, like your top level competition is, right? And then you got to kind of come back. It's always a few days to adjust. So I figured I'd see how you were doing. Yeah, from our previous conversation, it seems like this was probably the biggest stage you have played on. Would you say that's correct?
It is. I think the USM um, was pretty big before this, but this was on a whole nother level because there were galleries out there that I wasn't used to playing in front of, and just the people and the welcome that you get is quite different than what I've been used to.
Yeah, and speaking of the environment, like, what were some things you did to prepare for the environment? Did you consult with anyone in the area or any friends who have played in something like this before?
I wouldn't say I've consulted. There's some people that had either called or texted and gave me words of encouragement, and you know I don't want to say I took from them what I found most valuable, but I probably sifted my way through them because a lot of the stuff that people say to me is either stuff that I already know or is stuff that I would only expect from somebody with that exact experience. So not to sound that it wasn't valuable because I listened to everything that anybody said and tried to gain from it, but and mostly they were just caring people that wanted to wish me well and um, be my friend. So that was nice to hear from them. But um, to your question, as far as words of wisdom, I've tried to absorb every moment, and mental growth is a big part of this game. So I've really tried to grow mentally and be prepared for this time. And I just went through the scenarios while I was practicing in the weeks leading up to it, like everybody does. Everybody imagines that this putt means something and this tee ball means something. Um, but there's only so much you can do to imagine. And once you get there, it's different, but often in my experience, it's not as bad as you expect it to be. Maybe bad's not the right word, but it's
Hmm.
not as emotional. It didn't take me long to get comfortable in that environment.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like in your mind you almost play it up more than it should be on purpose. So that way when you do get there, it isn't gonna surprise you too much.
Yeah, I think that's just a defense mechanism we might put in place. But yeah, I would say I felt most uncomfortable on the range and like in the short game area where there were 10 or 12 guys around me. Like on the short game area, everybody's pitching to the same green.
Hmm.
And on the range, I might have, I mean, one day, the first day I was warming up in front of a lot of players. Lee Jansen was on one side and Steven Alker was on the other side. And the wind is blowing. I'm hitting off of very tight turf and it's wet. So it's just, and I was quite nervous. So that moment stands out. You know, I'm like, am I going to bone this or am I going to lay the sod over it? It's not going to be, it's going to be one of those two. But I eventually settled in.
Now you know how people qualifying for their first gap mid-am or something feel hitting balls next to you, Mike. It all comes full
Oh,
circle, right?
stop. You're a sweetie.
No,
Thank you.
no, but no, were you starstruck a little bit at all out there? Or?
I was. It's you see these guys on TV and then they're standing next to you and you're like, man, it's hard to differentiate between TV and what's happening right now because he looks exactly the same.
Hmm.
Uh, and in no time at all, it's fairly normal. It's like you're on another practice screen with a bunch of guys. You're in your own mind. And I also, you know, you see these guys and a lot of them hit very normal golf shots that you and I hit. And some of them hit extraordinary golf shots, the guys that really separate themselves. So you also start saying to yourself, you know, I'm not far off from this level. Um, and if I were playing in a vacuum, I might even compete at this level. So it's just a matter of, again, mentally growing to a point where you can be at your best in that environment. The question for me will be, will I have enough time to do that?
Right. Yeah, you're kind of going against father time, right, in a way at that level, right? Because you figure how many years do you think you have left to really play your best golf at that senior level?
I guess I probably have 5 years feeling this way physically, if I'm lucky. Like I still hit the ball pretty hard, and um, I've been spending a lot of time on flexibility, which I've never done in my whole life. But uh, I feel really good as a result. And to answer your question, I'd say probably 5 years of
Mhm.
physical, being at my peak physically.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And getting back to just seeing Lee Jansen and seeing some of these guys, did you get to play any practice rounds or have any interactions with any of these big names?
Yeah, I had three practice round days, and each day, I had two big names in that group. The first day was Lee Jansen and Paul Broadhurst.
Mm.
The second day was Mark Kalkovecki and Jay Haas, and the third day was Colin Montgomery and Thomas Bjorn. Unfortunately, yeah, the first day and the third day I played by myself, which I learned is not abnormal. These guys move around. They see their buddies and they move around. But I really enjoyed a round with Jay Haas and Mark Calcavecchia. I played 9 holes with those guys, and Trip Keeney was our fourth in that group. So I just had a blast, and I spent a lot of time talking to Jay Haas and Mark Calcavecchia was just a normal guy like you and me, had no airs about him. Not that Jay Haas did at all, but I don't know. Jay Haas, I hold him in such high regard just from the way he handles himself and you know how he's acted over the years. And not that Calcavecchia didn't, but Calcavecchia is more like a normal guy that you would see at your country club.
Hmm.
Um, and Haas is just super polished, but natural. Like he's not doing anything that's not in his personality. But
Sounds like Calc would fit in good at like a Little Mill or something, and it seems like Jay Haas might be more of like a mainline vibe, but both good guys is what you're saying.
Great guys, great guys. Yeah, had so much fun that day. Haas is 70 now. He ended up making the cut, finishing, I don't know, 40th or something, but it's just it's incredible. So maybe I say I have 5 years, maybe I have more than that.
Yeah, right. You see these guys playing such good golf at such a long age. You never really know, right? Like you said, you want to err on the short side, but who knows? Yeah, I mean, if you're doing the right things, you're taking care of yourself. So you play in that practice round, and then does that help calm your nerves at all? Like I'm going to flash forward to like Wednesday night, the night before the tournament. Like how nervous are you? Did you get any sleep? Like what was going through your head?
Yeah, I was fine to sleep, and I was nervous, of course, on a low level when I wasn't at the club, but um, yeah, the practice round with Jay and Tripp and Mark Calcavecchi was good for me because it was an introduction to the nerves I might feel. And luckily, I was kind of at my best during that time. I was playing really well during that day. Um, so that gave me a lot of confidence. I imagine if I had played all three practice rounds with bigger names and I was nervous right out of the gate and playing ratty, that I could have gone in a bad direction. So it might have been a blessing in disguise for the first day of practice to be with a guy that I didn't know. I played with a guy from Sacramento, and we had a great day, and I was very comfortable. So maybe that was a blessing in disguise. But once the tournament got there, I was nervous on the first tee, but um, I played with Mark Walker and Mikhail Lundberg. Mikhail Lundberg's a European Tour veteran, and Mark Walker is on and off of the Champions Tour now. So they're guys that I've followed. I'm aware of them. I know
Mhm.
what they've done, and in a couple holes, I felt like I was in the right neighborhood.
You were nervous on that first tee shot. Was that the most nervous you've been in a while, or maybe ever? Or
Not ever. It was the most nervous I've been in a while. The most nervous I've been ever was a couple years back, the final round of first stage of Champions Tour Q School, and I needed to shoot, something around even par to get through the stage, and I didn't sleep, I couldn't eat. It was, for some reason, I made that the most important thing in my life, and at the time, it probably was, and 2 years later, it almost means nothing. So golf is funny that way.
yeah, it is weird. It just seems like the more expectations you put on yourself, it's never good. And as much as you try to convince yourself not to, we we all tend to do it in our own ways. And yeah, like you said, you live and you learn, and you kind of get perspective and realize it's probably not as important as you once thought.
That's the truth.
So
Yep.
yeah, so you posted that 73 in the first round. You felt pretty good out there, it sounds like. Just going through some of your stats, you hit 10 fairways that first day, 11 greens. I don't want to speak for you, but probably for your standards, you would say like from a statistical standpoint, a pretty average ball striking day given the event.
Yeah, I that first round, I made a double on the fifth hole that I played, and it kind of shook me a little bit. I had a 6 footer for par that was downhill, downwind, down green, and I had honestly thought about lagging this putt and talked myself into not lagging the putt and ran it 25 feet by from 6 feet and ended up making double, but it kind of it rattled me pretty good. I tried to hang in there, but yes, my ball striking the first day was pretty average. And I hit more greens the second day, but I drove the ball so well both days that my score wasn't what it should have been.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Getting into the second round, I mean, you literally outstruck some of the best senior players in the world. You hit 13 out of 14 fairways, which beat everybody outside of six guys who hit all fairways. And then you hit 15 out of 18 greens, which was tied for sixth on that day. You hit as many greens as Bernhard Langer, the eventual winner, Richard Bland. You hit more greens than a guy like Lee Westwood, world class iron player, the tournament runner up, Hiroki Fujita. How did you feel in that second round? Was that about as good as you could hit the ball, or?
While it was going on, I didn't feel that way. I really was just driving it really well. Like the fairways were generous and you could swing hard. Like I was swinging hard at the ball because there weren't a ton of consequences. There were bunkers out there that weren't too friendly, but I hit my irons. I hit it on the green, but I had 25 and 30 footers all day. Half of them you couldn't even go at, and the other half I wasn't making. So um, events events that are most important, and that means different things to different people, but it really shows you what you need to work on. And it's very clear to me what I need to work on moving forward. And it's iron play. Like I watch these other guys and I see the patterns of their shots, and then I see my own shots and what they look like, and I am clear that I have to make some changes in my golf swing, which will translate to better iron play. The driving is doesn't need too much change, but I don't know if you want me to go into detail, but I will
Yeah,
real
no,
quick.
I would love to. Yeah, I would love to hear this.
I saw a teacher, and my club comes too far from the inside, and if I hit the ball solidly, it's a push draw, and if I don't, it hangs out to the right. And this teacher told me that that would be a problem if I wanted to play at a high level, and I worked on it for a while and aborted because I got impatient. It kind of hurt my back. I made some excuses as to why I should just dance with the one I brought, but uh, these guys start the ball online, and if it's mishit, it's still online. And a mishit for a player at that level might be a groove low, and it's
Mhm.
not like they're boning it over the green. It's just you would only know it if you were standing close to it. Um, so anyway, I'm gonna try to get away from an intentional push draw and start hitting the ball online, and hopefully that makes a difference.
Yeah, like you're saying with those guys, there's just such little spin on their ball overall, directionally. Like they're not. Yeah, I think a lot of times we get caught up in like draw or fade, but those guys are literally moving the ball like a yard each way with their irons. Like you said, unless you were close, you probably wouldn't even be able to tell what exactly the ball is doing, right?
Yeah, that's the truth. And when you reduce the side spin, you have the chance to increase the backspin. So you're playing on these firm, fast conditions. If you're playing a sweeping draw with a 7 iron, and a 3 or 4 yard draw with a 7 iron can be hard to control when it gets on the ground. So these guys are making a direct blow with a lot of backspin, and the ball reacts well when it lands. That's another problem I have is my ball is not reacting well when it lands.
Yeah, to your point about playing a slingy draw or a few yard draw, you get three or four tucked right pins, and that's basically four holes you're not going to birdie, chances are, right? Unless you're making a 25, 30 footer, because you're likely not going to be stuffing it to 5 or 10 feet, right? With those pins.
You're exactly right. I never feel comfortable with a pin that's tucked on the right, and I usually feel comfortable with one on the left. So you're right on there.
So do you have a plan in mind? Like you have a guy in mind, or are you just going to kind of? It's so hard this time of the year, right, the middle of the season, to make these changes. But I guess to your point, like you're trying to get to the next level. I mean, the stuff around here is good practice for you and it's good repetition. But at the end of the day, where you're trying to get to, you got to make these changes, right?
Yeah, I've been working with Wayne DeFrancesco. He's at Peninsula Golf Club in Delaware. Um, he played the tour. He won the Club Pro Championship a way back, and he's worked with some great players. And he's got some eye-opening information for me. But it's not real complicated what I'm trying to do. It's my backswing um, is okay. It's not perfect, but actually on the downswing, I'm gonna be trying to impart what feels like cut spin, even though I'm in a square position. So I just kind of do that over and over, and it straightens up my path on the way down. Um, and I hopefully, since I started stretching, this move won't hurt my back as much. I've been doing it for about a week now, and when I do it well, it's different. It's a different ball striking uh, than I'm used to, but who knows? Sometimes, you try to get better and you get worse. I'm hoping it's not one of those.
It's funny how stubborn we are because you kind of probably in the back of your mind knew you had to make those changes to get to the next level, but then to actually see it and experience it, and then to convince yourself like, wow, we really need to do this. It's funny. Like I can relate in like a much lower level. Like I'm saying, like when you play a harder course, like you can fake it around in these qualifiers, and then you go to a course that's tipped out at 7,000, and then you're like, wow, yeah, I just don't have the shots to be able to compete out here at all. It's just funny how stubborn we are, right?
Yeah, for sure. And you got a lot of people saying different things. And, I'm one of the guys that love Brandel Chambly. Like I'm a fan of his. And he mentions a lot of guys who try to make changes in their golf swing and then fall off. And then the guy sitting next to him, whoever that may be, saying he's got the courage to continue to try to improve. So which is it?
Yeah, I mean, you could find an example for either one, right? It's like you can also find, people like someone plays a push draw, right? They might find one person who in the world, and I'm sure there's a couple guys out there on the senior tour who do play a push draw and they make it work, but it's two guys in the whole world, right? Like you can find an extreme example for everything, and chances are like you're not going to be the extreme example, right? So it's like
Right. I'm trying to play the odds and make small incremental gains. And uh I think you're right. I'm not going to be the guy with the push draw that does it differently than everybody else.
nothing against you. I mean, if anybody could do it around here, it would be you. But I'm just speaking in general. It's just yeah, it's like you said, play the odds, try to do it the right way, and see where it gets you. Right? I mean, that's the way to do things in life. What's your next tournament around here?
I'm playing a qualifier on Monday in Akron, Ohio for the British Senior Open. And then I'm off to play the father son at Heidelberg with my dad.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
What is that? 18? That's only 18 holes for the U.S. Senior.
Yeah, it's 18 holes. Um, it's at Firestone. It's on the Fazio course, which is the course that they don't play the World Series on, or they used to. And then the tournament after that is at Carnoustie. So
Man,
hopefully I catch lightning in a bottle.
even par gets you in there probably.
I don't know. There are a minimum of six spots, but the field's pretty loaded. It's mostly guys that chase the Mondays for the Champions Tour, so it's gonna be a tough egg.
Yeah, yeah. And then do you come back and play anything around here?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll play the New Jersey Open at Plainfield in a couple weeks. Um, Pennsylvania Am at Huntington Valley. I'm playing the Delaware Open at Fieldstone down the road, and I missed USAM qualifying. I didn't get through local, so US Mid Am is the next USGA event.
Where are you doing the mid-am at?
Carlisle?
Carlisle. Okay. Yeah, they have it there every year. I've heard it's never played, but I've heard it's pretty tricky. The number seems like even pars is always a decent score out there, and it's a short place. So,
Short and tricky. Yep. Where are you going,
well,
Beau?
shouldn't be going anywhere, but I'm signed up at Hackensack, which I really enjoy.
Oh, that's a great spot.
One of my favorite courses. So, yeah, at least either way, I'll have a good day. Do you think going back to this stuff or any of this stuff is going to be hard emotionally just after, being on that big scene and then coming back? Do you think you're going to have a hard time kind of reconnecting to this a bit?
No, I don't think so. I may have played in one big tournament like that, but I'm uh I'm a guy that plays amateur golf and mostly local, so that's who I am. And it's training. It's we just keep training and keep going. And if you don't treat every practice day and every tournament like it's very important, then you're gonna move slowly. And I'm gonna keep treating every tournament that way.
Yeah, no, I love that attitude. And that was one of my questions, but you already answered it. It seems like you're leaving uh, Rhode Island, coming back here, feeling motivated and not discouraged. Like I wasn't sure when I saw the 15 greens, and you're just like, hey, I hit it about as good as I can. I just can't really compete out there, right? Sometimes that happens where you keep like you give it your best shot, and you're just like, yeah, you come back a little beaten, but it sounds like you're motivated, you're making the changes, and yeah, I'm excited to see what it brings you, man.
Thanks, Beau. Yeah, I'm excited too. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's all I had. Do you have any other good stories from did any Lulu guys come out there, or did you get any support? Or
Yeah, there were some Lulu guys up there. It was real nice. I had Mike Dinda, who's my short game coach, and my buddy. He was up there, and Jeff Huntsinger, who has been my friend for 30 years, a member over at North Hills. He caddied for me. There were a handful of Lulu guys up there, and I had 10 of my family members with me as well. We all stayed in a house together, so it was a special week, mostly for that reason, because I it was the first time my entire family had been together ever. We get together in groups, but in pieces. But um, my brother and sister and their families and my parents, it was the first time we were together. So it was a week I'll never forget.
yeah, that sounds incredible. It's so cool when the way golf brings people together in general, and especially something like that. So yeah, what a great memory, and that's kind of all we're doing out there at the end of the day, anyway, right? It's just trying to create memories and bring people together. So that sounds like an awesome week.
I also wanted to mention that perpetually and especially leading up to the U.S. Senior Open, a lot of people helped me, and the members at Lulu and John Rusk, who owns the club with his father, supported me in so many ways. And the company that I work for, Makefield Putters, they're behind me all the time, pushing me to play. So along with my family, but I felt like I was there with a big group of people in my corner, and I was playing for myself and for them. And I'm just really grateful for the people that helped me.
You got to have a team around you, right? Doing this all alone, it's too much. It's a long road, it's a long journey, and you need people to keep pushing you and supporting you to help you level up. So that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, buddy, I need all those people, and I'm a nobody. So it's I can't imagine if you're playing that way week in and week out. You got to have a lot of good people around you to just keep you pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, totally. It's certainly humbling, like you said, when you're viewing yourself in that way, and people are still coming out and yeah, pouring all that energy and resources into you. It's if that doesn't get you motivated, right, then what will?
For sure. Thank you.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on, Mike. I know I speak for myself and many of the Philly area golfers and saying that we appreciate you taking the time to tell you about the week. And it's always great speaking with you. And I really wish you best of luck the rest of the season. I hope those swing changes, show up in the scorecards. I'll be certainly checking them out as always. And yeah, maybe we can catch up at some point later in the year.
Thank you, Beau. I love your show, and I love being part of Philadelphia golf, and I'll see a bunch of your audience at the next event.